right, so it's 5 o'clock here on Tuesday, March 21st. Call to order the City of Bel Air Beach Audit Committee meeting. And I'll first call for approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve. And you?
John and Tom. Elliott.
Tom.
Elliott, yeah.
Okay.
One T.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So now the second order is to elect the audit committee chair. So this is something that Patty says we have to do every year. So I've done it. Happy to keep doing it.
Oh, great.
I nominate you.
I second. He's smart about this stuff.
I accept. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And then if everybody have a chance to read the minutes for April 12th audit committee meeting from last year.
Yeah.
I just have one question. Was there an earlier March meeting like we're having now?
No, the audit was late last year.
Okay.
And actually, the first meeting in April was to go over the potential budget. It was the preliminary budget, and then the June meeting was where we actually went over the audit. So we're 3 months ahead this year with the audit.
Okay.
Any questions with the April 12th minutes? Not trying to get a motion to approve them?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the June 13th minutes?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Jody,
I'll
second.
second.
John,
Jody.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is approved. So now we move on to review and accept the draft of the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022. And I don't know, Kyle, if there's anything you wanted to jump into and address, or that I can jump in and address, or take questions from everybody?
So in the March council meeting, we had the auditors, Saul March, show up and give a presentation on this draft. And to this point, we are missing two elements of the audit, which is one is the statistical section, and then the other is the certificate of achievement for excellence from the Government Finance Officers Association, which we achieve every year. We've had it since 2016.
What was the first one?
It is a statistical section that we're still waiting on.
Which might be kind of important, right?
Yes,
So
I mean,
there is a miscellaneous statistical data unaudited.
mhm.
That's
Kyle, you were
that's
referring to the
different.
4 blank pages that say information not
Yeah.
available?
Yes.
But it will be.
Yes,
What
it
you're
will,
saying.
it will be, and then it will be included
Okay.
and submitted. So if we don't know exactly when that will come in, so we can ask for an extension if that's what we want to do.
Or can we approve what we have and then not issue acceptance of this until we get the rest of it? Does
We
it
have
make any
to-
sense to do that or no? Or just hold off?
We can hold off if we want to wait for the data.
There's a lot of information in here,
Yeah.
though, that I think we can review anyway.
So at this meeting, we can review what we have, and then we could set aside a date, because then, worst comes to worst, because we can't find out exactly when they're gonna issue these awards. If we don't get it, Heather's prepared a placeholder until we do get it, just saying that, you know, we intend on getting it, and we can submit it as is. So we can start with a 1-month extension to put in, so that hopefully by April we have the data and statistics.
Does Salt Marsh think they'll have the data? Is it they who put the?
I believe it comes, I believe they said they're waiting from the county for it. But let me check up on that. So if that's something we'll want to wait for, I'll find out more of a timetable. But we'll at least get the extension past March, because the regular time period is due by the end of March.
Okay. Yeah, so I would recommend getting a 30-day extension to receive the statistical data as well as the
Hopefully the.
award.
Yeah, the award.
But in the meantime, we can talk about, because there's a couple things I've got notes on that need to be cleaned up
Okay.
before it can be published.
I had just a general question, Kyle. Well, Ron, you'll know this right away too. When it's published by what means? It's kept in file, available to whomever, or is it sent to the Florida government, or what's the step?
It's officially submitted, but I mean, once we submit, then it's on, that is our copy on record for.
It's submitted to the state of Florida,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, okay. To
So
make
it's a
it available-
requirement that we have
Public,
to
we
do.
make
We
it
don't-
available on,
Okay.
publicly on our website.
Oh,
Yeah, all-
so it would be a PDF that they could review?
Yeah, all of the few prior
Are
audits
available
are on the website. It's all part of the
I
Florida
have to
site.
ask you how you get to it, because it's not so
It's
obvious.
it's under
The
finance.
website is
It's
very
under-
obtuse.
It's under
Yeah.
finance, and
Yeah.
then it's probably reports, or I'm trying to remember,
Okay.
but I found it
All right.
before.
Well, you're sharper than I am.
I've done that a couple times, just looking for something, I cannot find it on the
I know,
website. I do a
it's-
search, it doesn't come up.
It's in
so-
the most,
Yeah.
nothing's where you think it was gonna be.
Right.
Not intuitive, yes.
Right.
Okay.
Did you go through it? Do you have any questions on it? We can go.
Well,
one-
I mean,
one-
I don't know how much in the weeds you want to get into. You mentioned management, and for an outsider looking in, I mean, I can guess who management is, but can you be more precise and say who management is in the report? Because it's signed by you, Kyle, the treasurer, I understand that. And yes, are you the treasurer?
Hi, sorry, no, I am not.
Oh,
I'm Tim
okay.
Hollick. I was on the
Tom Elliott.
Citizen Advisory Committee.
So, can that be clarified anywhere, or is that too obvious?
I think it's a standard, as a banker, all of these audits always say management. So
Right.
whether it's a corporate management or the city management,
Right.
I think that's just a FASB or a GAP phrase that's used. I don't think they ever
Okay.
spell out.
I've
never seen
I
it,
come from a
but-
law background, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna say words have meaning, and I'm just trying
Yeah.
to figure out who's responsible, ultimately, if it's the city council and manager, city manager, or whatever. If it's changing the usual, I don't wanna do that, but I just try to
I think it's,
understand.
according to GAP is how
Okay.
that's spelled out. Tim,
Yeah, I was just sorry, I didn't hear what the terminology was you were referring
He's
to.
just-
Oh, the management is used in here, but it's never defined as who is management.
Yeah,
So-
I mean,
so that an
it's
ordinary
the leaders
citizen-
of the organization, yeah, it's a pretty common term, as you said, in audit reports. The management, those who run the city,
That's fine.
basically.
That's fine, I mean, if it's set out, management means, and then it's never mentioned again,
It's
except
not,
as
it's not like in a
management.
loan agreement where it's defined.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
you see what
I know what you're getting at,
okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, for what it's worth, on page, Roman numeral II, there is, I believe you wanted to insert a, let's see, if I can find it. You wanted to insert, this is on the transmittal letter. Come on, let's see. Oh, no, 4, Roman numeral 4. The 1, 2, 3, third paragraph, penultimate line in that paragraph, the city has decided to utilize. You need a TO there, right?
Okay, yep.
Okay. Sorry to nitpick, I just,
No,
I figure you want it to be perfect, so. And I've always been puzzled by the statement, we have no commercial businesses located within the city when I drive past the motel. Am I missing something here, or?
You're beating a dead horse. That's always my question too.
It's not a commercial business?
It is, but the city doesn't have really any commercial revenue.
Right. And it
And
was
so even though it just
grandfathered.
has that one resort hotel,
Right. And there's others further down,
Yeah,
further
right.
toward.
but the auditors, for whatever reason, just have said,
Don't see it
Because
as a
we don't
commercial
have
business.
land use and zoning for a hotel or commercial. It's considered, they're all considered condos. And they, even though they rent like
Okay.
hotels,
Yeah,
they're
sure.
timeshare.
Yeah, and even the motel, I was told that people own a
The
group,
individual.
an individual or groups of those rooms. And they participate in the rental amount through the manager of that place. Which,
Oh, that's
may-
interesting.
which may.
So it's like having timeshares.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
But operating like a hotel.
And it's all
pretty much.
one family.
In our city code,
Right,
the
right.
rental registration rates actually spells out individual unit, or if you own over, I think it's 15 units, it gives a different rate. So it actually kind of like allows for that in the code.
Okay.
Whether or not it's a actual hotel.
Well, obviously, I'm looking at the weeds here, so but it's a,
and we always
pops right out.
It's a-
new eyes every
Scratch
year,
your
that way
head.
we
It's
don't
a
keep
valid-
going.
yeah,
It's always done,
I
yeah.
guess you
Very valid
better warn
point,
us.
No, it's
And
all,
we are not
They-
receiving any
We get no
The
tax
other-
benefit from it
No.
operating like a hotel, but
Right.
that's what it's.
from visitor
Kyle?
charge,
Oh, I'm
visitor
sorry.
fee or anything like that. no.
The other question I had, Kyle, when you go through the statistical section, and it's all 10-year look back, and you say it's unaudited, are those ever audited?
they were audited in the past, but those schedules aren't, like, they didn't go review them again today. But those are, they're just pulling that schedule forward from the prior years.
All right. I mean, is it any, when you say unaudited, bells and whistles go off?
Or are you talking about like the schedules, like the number of police,
Well, for example, I mean, it starts at page 59, goes to 83. I'm jumping way ahead here, but I just was looking at that.
so that's just the historical,
Right, I realize that, and it says unaudited. Do you have to even specify? Because unaudited, as I say, alerts you to, wait a minute, it hasn't been, checked through a professional auditor.
In that fiscal year period, I assume it was audited.
Right, we
Yeah.
have.
Probably just by a different auditor, that's why they won't represent that they're audited.
right, no, we did make a change, you're right.
Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're just trying to say, we didn't audit this stuff.
This was all done in-house back then too, by the way, so we had our own finance officer that was employed by the city. We didn't outsource it.
Made all these reports, right?
No, did the previous reports up
Okay.
until, when did we make that change?
A couple of years ago.
Salt Marsh has been probably, well, we just renewed the contract last year, so this is probably the
Probably
fourth
4 or
year.
5,
I
yeah.
think
Fifth
probably
year.
it was I think it was the last year of Joe's term as mayor that we switched.
First year,
Might
yeah.
have been
And-
first, yeah.
Yeah,
Or was it
first-
first
That was
year?
one of the
Okay.
first things we did, yeah.
And we never used an outside auditor prior to that?
I
Oh,
think
we did use an
still have to use
auditor,
independent
yes,
auditor.
but we did all the.
Yeah.
Did all the financials in-house.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with
I don't think Salt
city
Marsh
employees.
did, though. Right.
Yeah.
So I had the impression that the treasurer and you, Kyle, got together and printed all this out. That isn't the way it worked? How did all the
It's compiled by prior audit reports. So Salt Marsh did do all
Oh, I'm
that.
talking about the whole report itself.
Oh,
When you get into all of the financials and
Heather works with Salt Marsh. Heather is our financial consultant that we contract as well.
okay.
and then Salt Marsh
And
has.
she prepares it.
No.
All
The Salt Marsh
financials.
No,
prepares
so
it, Heather.
she prepares our regular financials.
Okay.
And then she gives Salt Marsh access, and so they
Right.
go in and
And
do
then they
their
do the audit
tests.
of that.
So they
Yeah,
do their
yeah.
tests and they
And
do
they
all
do
the things that they
on-site
do.
as
Much
well.
clearer, thank you. I appreciate it.
it's not as loose as it appears. That's the bottom line.
That's a good explanation for accountants and auditors. Thank you, that's all.
Mark, do you have any comments, or?
You know, I didn't actually use a fine tooth comb to look for anything in there. I looked to see that the numbers and the columns made sense, and it looked like there wasn't any gross errors in it. But I'm sure there's a lot of things that could be addressed since we're taking the time to do this anyway, so to make it most presentable product that we can. But I don't have any critiquing comments about the way it was constructed or put together. Misspelled words or run-on sentences.
I've got like
that.
a couple, I just flagged 5 items here.
Yeah. But I'm sure there are some, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we identified a couple.
Some repeated.
Last time.
And they repeated it this year.
Okay.
The millage?
Huh?
Did they repeat the millage?
No, they fixed that one, but I'll give,
Yeah.
the salt marsh guy, brought it up in the meeting, but it's on, page 23. So it's about, after expenditures, there's a line that says deficiency of revenues.
Right.
And that should be excess of revenues over expenditures. So the good news is the city, was a positive $1.1 million in cash flow, if you will, for the year. But they're just used to it always being a deficiency, so.
They did, yeah.
Which ties back to my questions, and mine are more from a budgeting standpoint. I'm going, okay, if we've got some overage, excess in, just in the beginning, the general activities, and it talks about some of those overages and stuff like that. But that, I think, more for the revenues were $506,000 higher than expected. Expenses were lower than expected, so we ended up with the $600,000.
Yeah.
What do we do with that money? That was my.
Well, it
we got
ends
all
up in a
these-
bucket, tell
we've got
Kyle
all
moves
these
it.
Underground
Yeah.
issues and things we want to do, and that was going to be a question to Kyle when it comes to budgeting. But yeah.
So did you get that on page 23?
23, okay.
Page 23.
And what are we doing here? Deficiency of revenue should read
Excess.
excess of revenues.
Over expected.
Over expenditures.
Excess of revenues
Over.
over
Yep.
expenditures, okay.
And then on page 14, I skipped over that, but when they did the Bellevue Estates bond issue, they put series 2014 A, B, and C, so it should be 2018. It's under long-term debt, second paragraph.
Page 14.
Yeah.
What page were you on?
14.
14, second.
So the second paragraph, it starts during fiscal year 2018.
Yep.
The revenue bonds should be series 2018A,
Oh,
2018B, 2018C.
18, right. Well, not if you consider when we started the project.
It was 2014 when we started.
Exactly, yeah.
Then
Get a sharp eye.
Kyle, I got a question, page 48. So on the amortization of the truest debt for 2023, they show 120,000 in principal, but I thought it was 160. I thought every year was 160.
Yeah, it should be every year, 160.
So they need to change that. So
Unless
It's only-
they're counting the pay, are they counting the
Stub
payment?
period.
It's only a partial year.
It's a
Yeah.
part, yeah, because if you,
23 is only a partial year.
and 26 ends that year, yeah.
So it's 40,000 a quarter. So yeah, that's your 120 through September.
So for the remaining, is that, but this is as of September 30th, 2022 through September 30th, 2023, it should be 160,000.
Oh, you
Should be.
mean it's for full years ending September 30th, 2023.
Right here.
Oh, yeah, so that would be this
On
year.
Should be 160
That should be
everywhere.
160, got
I
it.
mean, you could just ask them.
Okay, I will.
That makes sense, because
Can we go back to 14 so you can tell me?
Yeah, if you,
Those need to be 2018A, 2018B.
Okay.
it's just coincidental that 2023 and 2026 add to 160. It's not, that's just coincidental.
I think it's just coincidental. So it would have been like, so it was a 20-year bond, so the first year of the bond would have been 120.
Got it.
But, yeah, this is a 20-year bond that we're winding down.
Okay. That's why the 40's there at the end.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
The only other comment I had was on page 44. And this is really just part of the presentation that Salt Marsh brought up. And so, Kyle, I don't know if you guys have thought about this. So on accounts receivable, when you read accounts receivable, underneath, it says accounts receivable for the general fund include $196,915 from a resident of the city for code violations for failure to meet construction schedule timelines. So he made a big point
Right.
multiple times in his presentation that this is
Yeah.
a material
It's not a
change. It's not material to the ongoing operations of the city, but it's a material event for receivables if we're gonna write any of this down or take a reserve.
right.
So,
And I didn't understand how,
Yeah,
I get the difference, but I don't know how we represent that accurately in the financials.
well, that's the whole thing, right? So if you go, oh, hey, well, we'll write down 20%, well, then the resident knows, hey, well, they're gonna take a 20% discount,
Right,
right?
that's their starting point.
Right?
Yeah.
So the reality would be is if we get down the road and we do agree to a 20% discount, so let's call it 40 grand. At some point that 40 grand will come off of
Yeah,
the earnings. So I still don't think a $200,000, even if you wrote the whole thing off, is a material change to the city when we've got, $6 billion cash balance.
yeah. Well, from a number standpoint, it isn't, but from a appearance standpoint, just as you said, it is. So maybe we should
Footnote.
put that into a fund or something that can be adjusted and not declare it as a definite receivable, a variable receivable of some sort, with a plus or minus, And I don't know what the accounting way
Is
to
this
do that.
accruing? Or is
Well,
it
we've
fixed?
sent
Yeah.
a collection letter, correct?
It's accruing
Yes, we
interest,
With
place liens.
And interest.
interest and penalty.
So yeah, we have liens in place.
Yeah, there are liens in place,
How
but
many
we've,
years till it goes to zero property value?
Okay.
it's a while now, because of the way property values have gone up. Every year it
Okay.
becomes less of a percentage, but,
There's gotta be a
Well-
way to handle it without it being a receivable and without playing our cards that we might let the
Yeah.
guy off the hook, because we
Yeah.
want him to finish his house.
and why don't we call it something else? I'd
Right.
rather see it come into the budget as an overage than have to pay it back mentally or subtract it from the budget afterwards. There's no such thing as anticipated revenue that is adjustable.
That's a good point, Mark. So at some point, so then they had to have
Well, aren't all of
accrued it to an income
Yeah, and.
to make it a receivable.
Exactly.
Was that because we started leaning the property for it? Is that because we billed them for it and now it's recorded in
Yeah,
our?
'cause
And there's a lien on it too,
Right.
so we have to actually forgive that lien. There's a legal process to go in and lower the amount or amend it or whatever we have to do. It's all of that is visually handled, but we're not doing a very good job of representing it in the budget. So as you put, it's not really substantial to the operating budget of the city. So maybe we don't include it as a receivable, but as know.
I don't know if there's
What do you,
anything else. I don't know
is
if
there
there's
a
anything else
term?
you
Can
can
you
call
come-
it.
Can you come up with, either you
Who's
owe
the
it or it's
accounting
due you?
expert here?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else.
I'm at a loss to figure that out, but,
I mean, is the concern that someone's gonna read it and figure out that we're not gonna get this and they're just gonna not pay it?
oh,
I
were they
think
all,
the concern of Salt Marsh in their presentation is that if we do discount it in the future, it'll be, a material, from
And-
their perspective, a material impact
and
to
because
income.
our past performance has been to significantly discount it,
Right.
they're saying, and they're going in saying, well,
I don't think,
we
have
don't,
we ever had anything, any
We-
fines
we-
like this?
Yeah.
Have,
Not
but
this big.
not this big.
No.
And they've never gone below 50%, and that was for circumstances.
but they've never been 200,000.
Yeah,
whatever.
we also
20,000.
had cases where I proposed a possible discount and the feeling was no because of the history of the case. And this is a case where he's blatantly been
Yeah.
told and not caring for a long time.
Is there
Is this the
litigation?
guy I forget what
Yeah, north
street?
of you.
25th.
25.
20, 30.
He builds a house and then he wants an exception to put his pool in the front yard?
I don't know.
I don't know about that one.
This,
Oh,
this is
okay.
a concrete
25th
curved
and
structure?
Hibiscus,
Yeah.
my neighbor down the street,
But
George.
he was given an extension, he was given further extension due to the COVID,
Yeah.
and still couldn't stick to a schedule. And
They're months without a contractor on the
Right,
site.
and it was
so-
in, the yard was unkempt and disrepair, and the neighbors had to live with that for years. I can't even remember how many years it's been, but
It's still
probably.
going on.
And it's still here, yeah.
It's the third anniversary, I think, this spring,
No.
or four.
Seems
Maybe
like-
since he
Permits are like
first got
4
the
years.
fine.
No, yeah, I'm talking
Yeah.
about, I remember speaking in front of the board about him wanting a variance so he could have more space in the backyard and then for the pool and all
Oh,
that.
okay.
Okay.
Move the house
So
forward.
you ask for that after you build the house? And not before? Can you see the plans?
Right. So if he takes us to court, and do we have to include anticipation of,
Legal
how do we
fees.
predict
Well,
this?
yeah, so that's what, and I guess that's what we're all saying, is that this, we know it's not gonna be any higher than what this number is, but it could be considerably lower than what this number is, or the expense to get the money could be greater than we anticipate it
Yeah,
being,
that we
which
know.
means the bottom line, our receivables are gonna be lower than we
So
are
we must-
portraying in the report.
This must be a this year event, right, where we issued the liens for 196?
I think they got to a
This
threshold.
Fiscal year.
I think I don't know what the threshold was, but he said, given the circumstances of the amount, that it changed to what it was.
It changed what it was.
Determined as.
Did we not file a lien before? I think he just was
We've had
accruing.
liens, I believe we've had liens since I'd say like $10,000-$20,000. Just to make sure that there was something
Right.
recorded.
Property taxes are still being paid?
Mhm.
Be smart there.
I think so.
Well, and he's still building, he doesn't, he's,
You got another
he
one
stood in
that's
here
in
saying he'll
that
never pay.
situation
that
too,
lien, so.
Is that what
on
he said?
21st Street, 103. The one that, they bought the house and they tore it up inside. They wanted to redo the plumbing and everything. They
Okay.
tore the floor out. Then they plant these fruit trees in the front yard and then they let the weeds grow. I reported it and then it got cleared. And yet the patio stones are still sitting out there. Now they got like plumbing pipes for showers or whatever out there. That has been an eyesore since the day they moved into the house, bought it. It still is.
Well, let's stay on target here,
Yeah,
so,
I
Anyone have a suggestion?
As to how to deal with it.
so if we would say,
Why don't we go back to the accountants and say,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
I can do it.
So they're the ones that raised the concern that it's not really revenue or expected revenue.
Well, you're not
How can we
gonna
portray it?
collect on it, right? It's
Yeah.
less than likely you're gonna collect.
I mean, or
At
do
least
they,
the full
do they have a
amount.
recommended,
Yeah,
Right.
They have to write off a
I think he was inquiring if we have full intention of collecting
You know,
all that, or if he was just trying to feel it out.
We do, and that speaks to the point that in business, if you have full intention of collecting it, but circumstances mean that you're not gonna be able to collect the whole thing, then it changes what it's called, right? So, and that's okay, I guess, but he didn't, I guess they didn't wanna say that it's put in there at the amount of the lien and that we know we're never gonna get the full amount. And then that's the point that the auditor is going, you know, it's gotta be portrayed a little differently.
Well, when I read this void of the auditor's opinion,
Mhm.
I highlighted this and said, we'll never collect this. And those were kind of my own notes to myself.
Yep.
These notes you see are before the auditors.
so we're showing $1.1 million excess. It wouldn't hurt to take 100,000 or the whole $200,000 hit, did not.
Well, but then back to the point that it loses its meaning.
Right.
In the population.
The residents.
that we're going to enforce these codes. So,
Well, maybe we ask Salt Marsh for some,
guidance, I think.
well, guidance, but then, so what if we don't take a discount and then next year, you know,
We
he
do.
wants to settle up and we take, 75 cents or 50 cents on the
Yeah,
dollar.
right.
How does that change the financial
So
statements?
can't you-
What would they do? What would be the material issue?
And couldn't we just put an asterisk next to that revenue piece, and then if and when it did change, we can just footnote that there's an exception because it was abated
I think
in the following
it's an
year.
audit, so it's not
But-
like a.
but it's gonna be after the
It's not like a
fact.
quality of earnings where you do the add back. This is an audit, so.
Yeah, but,
Well, this was in 2021, right? So that's probably when they recognized the revenue was in 2021, when this fine was issued. And then they pull it to accounts receivable, right? Am I
but the
looking at the same
fine was
thing?
growing, changing
it's
over
still
time,
growing.
and it's still
Yeah,
growing.
but I mean, I understand
Yeah.
that, it's still growing, but, you know, what would happen is they would have to charge bad debt expense if they wrote this off, basically.
Yeah,
And
so
then
this
they-
was
then they would-
recognized in the,
Just create this allowance. An allowance doesn't necessarily mean you're not gonna collect it. It's a conservative way of kind of pulling it off
Right.
your accounts receivable. It's not, it'll hit bad debt expense, which should in theory hit your
But-
revenue in some way.
When you say an allowance, does that portray is going to be a deficit?
It just means
Or-
that the possibility of collection
Of a change?
is not good.
Okay, well,
But we don't know for
but we
certain.
we never, we don't know that, but that's, I think you have that discussion with them. I mean, when banks make loans, there's a good percentage of those loans that are never
wasn't
gonna
that a
come
good
to maturity
percentage,
and they're
but
gonna
yeah.
get paid off. How what does it look like on?
It's
let's talk
actually
about-
pretty small. 2%, 2.3% is your bad debt reserve.
Yeah.
But just like most businesses, manufacturing company will have.
So we could
allowance
set up
for
a
collection.
reserve in our accounts to deal with that.
It doesn't
Absolutely.
remove the accounts receivable off the books, though.
No, it does
Right.
not.
Right.
It does not, if you create the
But
allowance.
you
But
create
that's a
a
good way to handle
reserve
it.
for uncollected fines. And it's a number saying, hey, our
And we don't
numbers.
have to
So much
necessarily
is,
tie it to
you know,
this.
But you have to put a value on it.
Right.
So we could say, this revenue is 400,000.
Request
Now,
auditor
but that-
to provide guidance on
We're
creating an
allowing
allowance
for 50%.
on the
For
accounts
bad debt.
receivable.
There's gotta be a way to do it so we don't get, at some point, someone from year to year is gonna say, well, this revenue in this category
Okay, in
went
regards to
down
the lien.
by $100,000.
In regards to the,
How does it go down if it's a
Okay,
fine?
Page
Well, then you have to explain
44.
how that happens.
Okay, sounds good.
So it's like having a bad debt line, basically, or
Yeah,
uncollectible.
allowance for bad debt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an allowance for bad debt. And you can offset 50%.
so you didn't have to worry about
of the
that when
fine.
you were selling scrap metal.
There was no bad debt.
No.
Just that bad scratch.
We sent Big Joey to go collect. That was no problem.
That's for mayor.
Jody, did you have any other things you
No,
wanted to
oh,
know?
let's see. Information not available page was one thing. The assessed valuation millage and tax levied, didn't have that. I was kind of curious what that was. That was on page 71. I'm curious why.
That was a pretty big jump. The 10-year
Yeah, I
history.
know. Yeah, I know. I was looking at that. It was a huge jump. The real property
Page
values.
72.
Yeah, the real property values.
Yeah, so that's
Tim-
what we're waiting for the county for.
I don't know why I didn't make a note. I haven't done it for some reason. Oh, maybe it's just curious, the 10 people that were the principal taxpayers were interesting to me. Like, I don't know any of them. Who is that?
I just know that the Joel Berry guy, that used to be Radke's old house. So Radke's house was the most expensive tax
Yeah.
assessed
So
value
these are-
10 years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
homesteaded people with
Yeah.
large houses.
I don't know what houses they are, so I have no idea. I think those were, my questions were more about, budgeting and moving forward, and it's a good exercise as we move into the budget cycle.
We have Heather coming to the next council meeting to
Oh,
speak on it, and from what I can tell, you want to kind of feel out why we can't tighten up what our revenues are in the budget years. We seem to be over collecting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we seem to have a lot of excess every year. 380,000,
Yeah.
500,000. There's a
Well-
lot of excess that, in the scheme of it, it's not a very big budget. That seems like a pretty
It's
big
a
number.
lot of money, yeah, but these are such unusual times for a multitude of reasons.
Mhm.
Odds are you're not gonna be right, no matter
Oh.
what you say.
Isn't
right?
the majority of the driver though? It's like we plan for capital expenditures in stormwater, it seems like the last 2 years they've all got pushed back. And so we plan to
But
spend
then
that
money's
money.
still sitting there in reserve. I'm saying this is undesignated funds, 635,000
More than we thought.
this year.
And it has to be that,
And the thing is, like when Lynn was here, he goes,
Taxes.
oh, well, we're just gonna use that money to buy a piece of equipment or something. And I'm like, well, no, because we have all these unfinished
Priorities,
projects
yeah.
that
Yeah.
probably we should look at rather than buying a piece of equipment. And I just wanna make sure we're planning that through and not,
Well-
those are my big concerns, because it's every tax year. Every year, we have this excess, and then it just kind of goes, oh, well, we need that money over here, let's just plug it over
well,
here.
we could investigate what the last 3 years' reason was for that, and then maybe we can adjust our thought process going forward.
There was a lot of padding in each department for the expenses, and we were coming way under budget.
Mhm.
Because we weren't, we were being fiscally responsible with how we're spending, but there was
Right.
just a lot built in.
I remember it was pretty brutal last budget year of tearing some of the
So, yeah.
the wish lists. Just like, what's 50,000 for this? Well, just in case. No, take it out.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
There was a
I
lot
would-
of
And I think that was because of the previous years.
Yeah.
And I want the undergrounding project done, and I'm like going, there's a lot, there seems to be a lot of excess left every year that could go plug into the undergrounding rather than being spent on a piece of equipment
Well,
that we had
it's like what
tagged to
we-
buy 10 years from now.
we're doing with the stormwater. We
Mhm.
took money from here and put it where the most important thing and figure out how to get the other stuff in. By the way, did that pass?
Yeah. The financing?
Yeah, all done? I mean, they agreed to
No,
everything?
well, it's
One
passed
more
in the
reading?
workshop yesterday. It's going to go to
Okay.
council for reading, and then it'll close first week of April.
That's great. That's
terms
Good job.
are still
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good work. That's
Yeah, you guys did a
amazing.
good job with that. Thank you.
One thing I was curious about on on page 23, the charge for services, I think this kind of goes to your point that
Sure.
so far, the 242,000 ahead of what we had planned. I didn't know if that was, it's a pretty big, 50% of what our budget was. We collected, obviously, a lot more on the revenue line there. I didn't know if there was something unique about that, or page 23 in the
Yeah,
top
what
section.
is that? I wonder.
Was that,
It's a pretty big number.
that wasn't parking, was it?
Charges for services?
The charge for services, I think that's part of your question with the excess. That's a big portion of it.
Halfway down under the
Right.
revenues.
I didn't know if maybe there's a footnote in there. I didn't see it, but it could be in there. I didn't know if anybody.
I feel like I have the answer to that last.
It's some kind of new
That's a lot of money. and
service.
Were the services,
I mean, and altogether, a 625 is a lot of money, right? When
Yeah.
we start looking at
Yeah.
it, that could put a dent in a project.
I don't know what it was.
Okay.
I mean, not that
so
we
you-
had it that close, but.
Let's see. This is current here. It's the utility services tax that we collect. So the percentages that we're getting from the utility,
But that's above if you look.
is that?
See utility
Utility,
tax.
273.
utility.
Utility,
Go down to,
right. Oh, charges for, oh, sorry, okay. Oh, this is our, EOCC garbage collection, lot mowing, claim on liens, parking permits, parking meter fees. So meters is a big chunk.
meters, yeah. And
Is
And-
the
700?
building rental in there too?
No, I don't. Where's the-
It's a lot of parking. That's
It
a
is
lot of
a lot.
quarters.
It is a lot of parking stickers, too. Yeah.
At 20, what are they, $5 a piece?
Plus tax.
I don't see any,
Rental income is on the next page.
They didn't used to charge the tax on it. I saw this thing out there when I brought
Thanks
the
for
last
that.
meeting
Thanks.
minutes in for,
They didn't used to charge. You get free stickers.
I voted for charging, I have to tell you. I watched Patty get up and have to stop what she's doing. So we don't know what that is?
No, it's this right here, so. These items.
Garbage collection should be a wash. Lot mowing, we should, oh, well, we're mowing someone else's
Yeah,
lot
and
and
that's
charging
not that
them for it?
often, it's minimal.
Okay, well, then, 'cause
We try to avoid that.
It's the actual number is $700,000.
This is this year's
Oh, this
budget,
is
that's
this
why
year's,
it's not
okay.
matching up.
Parking permits.
I guess I'll-
Parking meter fee is, oh, that's proposed. Actual, it's $172,000.
It's a good amount.
And we're
yeah.
doubling the parking fee this year.
So 172 of that number is probably parking?
Yes.
Okay, so
Parking meter collection.
That's the parking meter.
that was-
Wow.
It's a lot of quarters.
Yeah.
well, we lit up some people down in IRB.
Did we?
It's on, next door.
Oh.
That our parking fees went up, but yet you can still park free down there. What's wrong with IRB?
Right.
It's their problem, not
I didn't
ours.
read the post. I've been too busy doing my veteran service stuff, and I just saw come up on the email account, and I said, I'll read it later, but I saw the title of it.
Aren't you moving to Park Mobile, too?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a great way, because you can do variable based pricing, right, on the
Oh,
weekends.
yeah, we are.
It's-
Mhm.
it's-
Raise it up, holidays, raise it up, and then, Mondays, knock it down,
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
The holiday is a big one, right?
Yeah,
Because
the
that's-
holidays.
Yeah, the holidays are tough to
Yeah,
maneuver that, but.
spring break.
Hey, Rob, I don't want to forget you. Do you have any questions?
No, I mean, I had a couple of the same ones that you guys raised, but nothing other than that.
All right.
Good.
It'll be interesting to hear what your solution is for how to attribute that lien and money that's owed the city.
Yeah, I think the best is let's go ask
Yeah.
Salt Marsh.
I
Do we need
guarantee
to
you
create an account,
They got an
an
answer.
allowance for a doubtful account, and what do they recommend? And what other cities do for this. It might be something we have to propose to council.
Yeah, because I know, you know, the chances of us collecting it all are pretty slim, but at the same time, I don't know how the council, the body feels about forgiving
They've
this
been
debt.
tough.
My
I
intention
can tell
was
you,
to collect
they all-
Yeah.
the history of the case.
That sets a
I'm
bad
the bleeding
precedent,
heart,
right?
I'm the bleeding heart on the council right now when it comes to this stuff, and, yeah, they've been tough.
Yeah.
They've
Well,
been really tough about it, so.
But the amounts haven't been that significant.
Right.
This is, and the point that bugs me about this is that the assumption that I'm never going to pay this, and that no one ever pays exactly what, you know, they're charged or anything, is not good. Because as you see, the result is the neighborhood lives under those circumstances for as long as the homeowner wants
I'm sure the
it.
neighbors want it doubled.
Well, I think there's a way to get an
I see it
answer.
outside my window. so
There's a
yeah,
simple way
right.
to get an answer to that, about worrying about if we take this
No
resident.
CO.
Wait a minute. If we take this resident to court based on history, our city attorney might be able to tell us, without spending a lot of time on it, what the history is when entities take somebody to court for things like this. What are the odds of winning versus losing?
Well, the special master's already given us the favor, that's why we've leaned.
Well, you got, okay, so you got that on our side.
But the judge always says, you guys need to
Work it out.
mediate this. Come back to me after you've had
Technically, he
Mr.
missed,
Long.
he missed his 30 days to appeal that magistrate decision,
well.
so that's done.
That's
Go
done
men
too.
aside.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But the point is, if there's no CO, you can't do anything with the house.
Right, that's when everything's gonna blow up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Can't turn the power on.
It's still under construction, where is it?
103 25th.
Oh,
The corner of 25th and Hibiscus.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Tim, any other thoughts or comments?
No, I didn't. I mean, it's kind of my first time through.
Yeah.
It's quite voluminous.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah.
It'll be a test tomorrow.
Right.
And then their management letters probably, they directed us to that, to say, you know, review that, and that gives you a quick understanding of,
yeah, it's
Their opinion.
it's an unmodified opinion, which is what used to be called the unqualified opinion, so it's the best rating they can give. Heather continues to do a great job. Appreciate all she does. And I think as we go to the budget this year, the 5 years of projections she did for us for the bond issuance will help.
so.
I think work
yeah,
through.
Yeah.
I saw you're like, we've been asking for projections for years. How do we get this all of a sudden?
Because all I could see was we were running out of money. Like at some point, this money wasn't gonna last.
Right.
So anybody?
Go the projects.
So we will, we
Yeah.
will submit these questions and comments, and we'll get back together with the statistical, final data is to give a final
Yes.
approval.
So we're gonna ask for the extension and plan on getting the statistical
Yeah,
data and
and we'll-
hopefully the award. But the award, I don't see it as being a major issue.
Right.
If we get a favorable response from the accountants as to how to handle this, we can resolve that at
Yeah.
the same time and get it all done.
Yeah.
So there's nothing we can do down there because we've already asked for the, we're not gonna accept at this point, are we?
No.
Wouldn't make sense since we're asking for information.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, and by the resolution, we have to have at least 2 meetings.
At least 2 meetings, yeah. And
2 meetings on the budget.
Per the year, but I guess we could be, because we're planning on reviewing the budget.
Yeah, so we normally do an audit
So we can
review and a budget
okay.
review, so maybe we'll have a third, or maybe we'll get, just
Sure.
so we make sure it's right, but I think we all don't feel that we can accept the budget today because it's not complete.
No, I
so,
agree.
yeah, number 5, we can't, on the agenda, we can't meet number 5.
Correct.
Well, I'm gonna cross out where she's put accept in here, because we're not accepting it.
Right.
Any other general business for the audit committee?
I
Can I
have
get a
nothing.
motion to,
Rob?
John
Was I
motions to
can-
adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Wait, I think,
Yeah, I'm gonna say one more thing. So if I get an answer on the recommendation, what I'll do is I'll disseminate it to you guys to have the information.
yeah, that'd be great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
We got John and Tom on the motion in the second.
I motion Tom second, okay.
All in favor?
I.
Aye.